Chair now recognizes Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Administrator, for being here. The Chair had asked, how long does it take to recover from these? And I represent a district that was devastated by Harvey. It was just a few months ago that we were still at a press conference at ribbon cutting for something, a project that we had worked with FEMA to help bring recovery to. So obviously our hearts and minds go out to all those devastated in these past two hurricanes and what those communities and the families are going through right now. I wanted to ask you about, Representative Donalds mentioned that Ms. Washington says that she thinks this is an isolated incident. Of course, we have the New York Post article that talks about a FEMA official who went on and said that avoiding white or conservative-dominated disaster areas was an open secret within the agency. You state that there's nothing in the policy that, you know, and I will say I've been in enough of these, and that's the expected answer from any administrator. Of course, it's not in the policy. It's from our standpoint, it's not the policy that we're concerned with. It's not in the policy for the IRS to target conservatives. It's not in the policy for NIH to fund gain-of-function research. It's not in DHS policy for them to release foreign terrorists into our land, but they are. It's not policy of the FBI to target school teachers or people of faith, but all this is happening. And the common response is, well, it's not in the policy manual. Well, we're concerned about the culture. And I do not think that it's in a stated policy or in the culture to specifically say, you know, skip over Trump signs. But I am concerned about if there's not a proactive response to make sure that that isn't clear within the culture, that that kind of attitude should not be accepted at all. And I will point to this. FEMA's current strategic plan lists 3 goals. The first goal is to instill equity. We know that these DEI initiatives have had a discriminatory aspect in it. We've seen a lot of companies now having embraced it out of altruistic means, but understanding that what they do is they ask us to discriminate proactively. One of the things it mentions is this plan lists racial minorities, even religious minorities, as individuals who should be the beneficiaries of equity. So I would ask you, who's a religious majority, or a racial majority? Does FEMA make decisions about resources distributed according to these policies? Because this is in the strategic plan. And so whatever your case is on this, you're asking your employees to make distinguishment between individuals as opposed to just meeting a need. I tell people all the time in our office, we don't care who you are, we don't care what your voting record is, we don't care your background, your whatever. When you walk into our office, as many offices here, or even across the aisle, we're here to help and to help get your case through. I think that should be the very clear standing of FEMA, and I would encourage you to revise your strategic plan and rid it of all the DEI. We'll be addressing this actually in a markup, I think, tomorrow. But if you could do that, I think that would go a far way to making sure we have a proactive culture to where it's very clear so these isolated incidences don't pop up. Because what we didn't see in that text thread was any pushback on that either. And that should have been clear, like, no, we're not about that. That's not what FEMA's about. And I would encourage you to do that. I did want to ask about a couple things, because sometimes I've noticed, and I don't think this is the intent, having, you know, had my own experience with FEMA, but sometimes it seems that the process gets in the way of the people. And I will point in our own district, you know, most of our districts are rural. Sometimes you'd have a grant for $500,000 for a rural community. They're having to go through the same sort of process that, in a large metroplex, somebody with a $20 million project is going through. Very often it was point of contacts were very difficult. I know one place that had 7 site visits. It was a different team every time. They had to start the process over and over again because staff kept changing and these sorts of things. I was talking to someone even yesterday, and I've had a number of conversations with someone who's on the ground in North Carolina trying to help. And they listed a couple instances where you have people come out in the community, they put some resources together, they're trying to respond while FEMA's getting there and other resources, agencies are getting there. And FEMA would go in and they would, for example, be hosted in a place. FEMA would come out and rent out the place from underneath the people who are already doing recovery work, and they would confiscate the resources that were in that place and basically take over and kick the people out. There was this one group that basically were hiding their resources now because that had happened to them 3 times already. And so I would also caution you, there's other instances too where you have people trying to go and rescue and do recovery of their family, of their friends, of their neighborhoods who they know are trapped on a mountain, for example. And FEMA workers would stop them and prohibit them from going in to rescue them. And so again, in the aspect of guiding a culture, could you speak to what you are doing to ensure, in a sense, that you don't have, you mentioned some of them are temporary employees, that you don't have people who have this new found authority who are actually prohibiting the work because it doesn't fit within their scope, and that we're making sure we put people before processes?
Chairman, I know we're over. Do I have time to answer?
Can you,
Make it quick?
yeah, make it quick?
My apologies. I've had a lot of experience with FEMA. So.
Yeah, Congressman, I mean, first, I just want to address that equity as a foundation of emergency management as part of my strategic plan, because I think it will also address some of your concerns, because I share your concerns. And when I was a local emergency manager, both in Colorado, but as well as in New York City, what I have experienced is the barriers that people have, good working people have, in trying to access the assistance that's available to them. And when I came into this position, my goal was to try to remove those barriers and make sure that everybody had access. That's the foundation of why we put equity in there. It wasn't a DEI initiative. It was about making sure all people can access
Religious
the programs.
minorities? Distinguishing between religious minorities.
There's a definition as in the executive order that is listed in there because that is the executive order. But our view on equity is making sure that
Why would you
we
even
have
ask?
consistent and fair treatment of all people and making sure that nobody is left behind. That has been our goal, and we have made transformational changes in our own policies and our regulations to help assist more people. And we've been able to provide more aid in the last 3 years because of these changes, because we focused on making sure that there were no barriers that we haven't before.
Gentleman's time gone way over. Chair now recognizes